Hi, welcome back. We're going to be solving word problems today using models. We're going to be solving them using the bar modeling method. So what I want you to do right now is read this word problem and take out a piece of paper, pause the screen, and solve it any way that you can at first. And when you're finished, come on back and join us. Are you finished? Okay, we're going to take you on a trip over to our fancy little bar modeler who's going to show you how to represent these problems with bars. And I hope you think that it's as cool as what I do. Um, we have the same word problem that you just read, and we know that the painter has to paint a 35-meter long wall. So we're going to represent that with a big rectangle, a big long rectangle, and it's going to be labeled 35 meters. Then we know that he painted a portion of it already. He painted 8 4/10 of a meter. We know that that is not half of 35, so we're going to chisel out a little section. And this particular unit we're going to label as the first hour was 8 4/10 meters. And that represents the amount that he painted in that first hour. Now we're going to find out that during the second hour, he painted twice that much. So we need to put two of those same size pieces within our rectangle and label them again. 8 4/10 and another 8 4/10 to represent that that was twice as much. Now, as you can see, he's built up 3 of these unit pieces. So as we're solving this problem, we need to know what would these equal if we were to add them together. Of course, a simpler method would be just to multiply 8 4/10 by 3 if we didn't want to add 8 4/10 3 times. Either way would be fine right now. And then we have this one portion that's left over that we don't know how much he has not painted yet. And that's what we need to find out. So as you can see, clearly represented by this image is the picture that we have a 35 meters in order that we ultimately want to paint. We've painted this portion of it. As soon as we find out what this portion equals, what would we do? Of course, we would subtract this from the total of 35 meters, which of course would result us in the answer to what he has not yet painted. Pretty simple to be able to figure out some complicated word problems, maybe those word problems that you're not sure how to solve. So now let's go back to our problems and find out how we would use bar modeling to represent addition problems, subtraction problems, multiplication problems, and division problems. Now these are going to be very simple problems for you. It's not that you would have difficulty solving these necessarily, but we're going to want you to make the bar model just to get used to doing that so we can get on to some really complicated word problems. So let me show you that we have this particular addition problem, 23,431 plus 7,465, and we're going to represent that with a bar model for you and show you what that looks like. Well, since we're adding these two together, we're going to piece together two rectangles to represent that we are adding them together into one long piece. The parts of our equation are represented here with the various numbers attached because they gave us those numbers. What they didn't give us was the sum of both of those. When we finally add them together, we don't know what the sum is, and that's our job, is to find that missing sum. That's what this equation is asking us for. Now, of course, once you build the model and you figure out how to solve this problem, we know that we need to add these two together. We would come over and add them, stack the problem, add them, and we would find out that the sum is 30,896. And so we're going to move on, and we're going to let you try a bar model for the next problem. And let's see, there we go. 48,671 plus 6,786. Go ahead and try and make a bar model like the one we did just a moment ago that represents this problem. You can pause the screen and come back when you're finished. Are you finished? Well, let's go ahead and look at that. There we go. Just like the last one. I'll bet you got that. So we have two parts that we're going to add together, and when we find the sum of those two parts, when we add them together, we're going to be able to fill in the equal sign, that 48,671 plus 6,786 is equal to 55,457. Did you get it? Good job. So now we're going to move on to subtraction. Can you figure out how to make a bar model with subtraction? You're welcome to pause and see if you can try it and come back. Right now we're going to look at an example before you get that opportunity to try it out. Yeah, this one's a little bit different. Let's see. We've already got that out of the way. Let me do this before we go on. So sorry about that. Okay, so subtraction, they give you the entire amount, and then they are asking you to subtract one of the pieces, and it's one of the other pieces of the rectangle that we are unsure for the answer. So once again, they give you the total, 12,478, and if you were to subtract a piece of that total, they're asking what would you have left over. Does that make sense for the bar model? And of course, if you solve this correctly, you would, after lining up your place values, you would find out that the missing part is 6,429. So let's put that back, and let's go down and look at another problem and see if you can make the bar models for it. Here we go. There's another subtraction problem. See if you can make the bar models that represent this subtraction problem. Go ahead and try it now. Pause the screen and come back when you finish. Are you finished? Remember now, once again, in subtraction problems, they're starting, the first number they give you is the total amount. It's both of the pieces together, and then they're going to subtract one of the pieces. So in this case, I have it over here. It really doesn't matter if it's on this side or this side, but we're going to subtract one of the pieces. And in this case, we had 32,501, and we're subtracting 7,485. Once we subtract this piece, what is it that would be left out? And that's the representation for the subtraction problem. So let's go on to multiplication and see how you do with that. Once again, let's see. You're certainly welcome to pause this screen and see if you can figure out how would you represent this equation in a bar model. 9 times 376. You can pause and try it. If you're not interested and you want to see it first, let's go ahead and look at it. So here we have 9 times 376. So we have 376. We have a small portion of this rectangle quartered off and labeled as 376. How many times do you think I have that same size piece in this rectangle? Of course, 9 times. Since it's telling us that we need 9 of these 376s, we're going to go ahead and put those together like this. So can you see how to solve this problem? Obviously, it would be 9 times 376, or you could add 376 9 times. Not a good idea. I wouldn't recommend it. That's where mistakes happen. There's too many digits to be adding in a row or in a column. So I would much prefer to see you multiply those. So once you multiply 9 times 376, let's see what that answer might be. 3,384. And if you figured that one out, hopefully you got the same answer. Now let's try a bar model on your own. So you're going to go ahead and try to make the bar model for 258 times 7. 258, 7 times. Go ahead and pause the screen and come back when you're finished. Are you finished? Okay, let's look at this bar model. Let's see how you did. That's right. This time you have 258, and you have that piece 7 times. You can solve this obviously by coming over and multiplying 258 7 times 7, or of course you could add it 7 times, which I wouldn't recommend. When you solve that problem, you should get 1,806. How'd you do? Great job. Now I think you're getting the hang of this, and so we're going to move on to division. And we have 4,383 divided by 9. Any idea how to set that bar up? I'll bet you do. Go ahead and try it. Pause if you like and come back and see. Otherwise, let's look at the first one. This time, we know the amount of the whole rectangle. We know that that's 4,383 because they gave it to us. They gave it to us and they said they want to divide that into 9 pieces. So they're going to take that entire rectangle and divide it into 9 parts. Each of those parts are equal parts. It's the little part now that we don't know the size of. And so that's where our question mark goes. That's the part we're going to need to solve and find out. So let's move on to another problem and let you try making the bar model for the next division problem. It's 2,632 divided by 7. Go ahead and pause the screen, see if you can make a bar model that represents that equation. So you can pause now and come back when you're finished. Good job. Did you finish? Okay, let's look at this. Once again, we have the rectangle is represented by 2,632. And we wanted to divide it into 7 equal parts, which we did. And we don't yet know what each of those parts equal. And that's where our question mark goes. And that's what we're supposed to solve. And of course, we'll work on the multiplication and division in class and remember how to do it if it's been a long summer for you. But what I want you to understand is the bar modeling so that we can actually be able to solve some really complex problems. This is going to be an exciting way to solve some problems, and if you would like to continue to play around with this bar modeling, you are welcome to follow this link below. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a link that you can click on. You're going to need to actually go there. You're going to need to pause the screen, write it down, and just go there and play around with it. So have a great day, and we'll see you the next time. Enjoy your